You know, as a police officer, I'm compelled to make this video. I've been in law enforcement for 10 years, and I'm speaking to my peers, other fellow officers, people in any kind of law enforcement position. I've seen officers nationwide enforcing tyrannical orders against the people, and I'm hoping it's the minority of officers, but I'm not sure anymore, because every time I turn on the television, every time I look to the internet, I'm seeing people arrested or cited for going to church, for traveling on the roadways, for going surfing, opening their businesses, going to the park with their families, or doing nails out of their own house, using their own house as a place of business, and having undercover agents go there and arrest them and charge them with what? With a crime? I don't know what crime people are committing by doing nails in their own house, but we're seeing this more and more and more, and we need to start looking at ourselves as officers and thinking, is what I'm doing right? Now, I want to remind you that regardless of where you stand on the coronavirus, we don't have the authority to do those things to people just because a mayor or a governor tells you otherwise. I don't care if it's your sergeant or your chief of police. We don't get to violate people's constitutional rights because somebody in our chain of command tells us otherwise. It's not how this country works. Let's read something right here off of the Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal. Among these, we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their power from the consent of the governed, meaning our power and any government official's power is derived from the people, okay? We don't hold power over our citizens. It's contradictory to everything that our country stands for. And this is what I'm seeing. First Amendment rights, telling people they can't go to church, freedom of religion, okay? Telling people they can't protest, freedom of assembly. Fourth Amendment violations, illegal traffic stops to check for papers. What are you, the Gestapo? Is this 1930s Nazi Germany? You don't get to stop people unless you have reasonable suspicion or probable cause that they have committed a crime. And I know people that have personally been stopped saying, we want to see papers showing that you're essential.
David 2, copy a phone call.
That is not how our job works, okay? What really has been pissing me off lately is the fact that these officers that are going out here and enforcing these tyrannical orders, what they're doing is they're making my job and my safety, or they're putting my job and my safety at risk. Because what you're doing is you're widening the gap between public trust and law enforcement officers. And what that's going to do is it's going to, I mean, look at what's happened to law enforcement in the last 10 years. Less and less public trust, and more often than not, that is a result of isolated incidents that get blown out of proportion. Well, they're not isolated anymore. They're happening every single day. And the thing that I want you guys to realize is that our power that we hold as law enforcement officers, it's nothing more than a facade. It's a badge and a gun. And people, you don't realize, if you haven't lived in anarchy, if you haven't seen combat, things can be stripped from people in a heartbeat. And that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid that these actions are going to wake a sleeping giant, i.e. the American people, okay? They are going to be put in a position where they won't have their rights trampled anymore. And us as law enforcement officers, we'll have our ability to enforce the law stripped from us in about 10 minutes, okay? I think what is going to happen if this continues is we're going to see bloodshed in the streets, okay? I don't want to see bloodshed in the streets on either side of this coin. I don't want to see fellow officers get injured or killed, and I certainly don't want to see citizens get injured or killed. And I promise you, most of you out there doing these tyrannical acts against our citizens, you're not ready for combat. You're not mentally or physically ready for combat in the first place. I promise you, you don't want to go through that, and I hope I never have to go through that again. You know, you don't get to just say, well, I'm doing this because I was told to do so, or I'm following orders, or I need to keep this job. Guess what? I need to keep this job more than anybody. I have 3 young children. I have 2 houses. Like, I have the same sob story that the rest of you guys have. But my personal choices and my living arrangements, no matter what they are, don't allow me to trample on people's rights. And I don't understand why that concept is so hard for people to understand. Listen, you need to stand up for what's right. You need to, if you're part of a department or an agency that is asking people or asking their officers or their deputies to impose on people's rights and infringe on their freedoms, you need to step up and say, no, that's not me. That's not what I signed up for, and that's going against my oath. And if that costs you your job, so be it. At least you'll be able to look at yourself in the mirror at night. I've already expressed this to my department. And luckily for me, I come from a department that I feel like my chain of command shares my view, but I don't care what department you're part of or what your chain of command thinks. You don't get to trample on people's liberty. And so, you know, as a special operations veteran, I've fought on the streets of Iraq under the U.S. government's guise of freedom. And I'm telling you what, the American people are going to you are going to wake a sleeping giant, and they are going to fight 10 times harder for their freedom on their soil than anything you've ever seen before. And if that's something you're willing to face, then keep trampling on people's rights. But I promise you, the American spirit of defiance is going to rise again, and it's going to be a big problem for our country. So I'll leave you with this, something that I learned as an E-nothing in the Army. No matter what situation you're put in, if you look inside yourself and ask yourself one question, am I doing the right thing? You ask yourself that, you know the answer. And no amount of money or no order or law or anything should be able to make you go against doing the right thing. So I'm imploring officers to look inside themselves and ask themselves, is this what I want to be doing to my citizens? And I think the answer is clear. And if we all stand up together, guess what? It'll be a non-issue, no factor, because people and law enforcement will be united like we should be.
Hey, what's up, guys? So I just kind of wanted to take a couple minutes, get everybody caught up to speed on what's going on in my life. I've been getting a lot of questions, and figured I'd just make a second video and answer some of the things that I've been receiving. I first wanted to say I'm humbled by the response that my video got. It's been viewed millions and millions of times. People all over the country have been calling me, texting me, sending me emails, comments, and the overwhelming majority of it has been positive. And so I think that's pretty cool, because my whole thought process on making that video was trying to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the public. And I've seen both sides with open arms willing to embrace that. And I think that's a step in the right direction. So that's pretty cool. One thing that I've seen come up over and over in the comments, and I've been in email sent to me, is, are you going to get in trouble? What happened to you? Or is there any discipline or any discipline taking place? And so I figured I'd take a chance and give you a little synopsis of the last 3 days of my life after posting that video. So I posted the video on Tuesday, was it May 5th? And it took it took a day or two before it really started getting a lot of traction. But the next morning when I woke up on the 6th, I think it was only at a few thousand views. And I had received a message from my command saying, wow, Greg, what a powerful message. We agree with that 100%. Well done. And that was actually a relief for me because I was like, great, you know, I know that it's risky putting something out like that, but I felt like it was so grounded in integrity and liberty that no one would have an issue with it. So that was a relief. And then fast forward 3 hours later, I get another phone call from my command and it said, hey Greg, the video's up to 400,000 views. It's time to pull the plug on this thing. And I immediately, it kind of caught me off guard because I said, why would we want to pull the plug on something that was already acknowledged as a good and powerful message from one law enforcement officer to others? And I said, yeah, that doesn't really make sense to me. I think maybe we should embrace this message and we should share this with other officers. And he said, listen, you know, it's not up to me. I have been directed to tell you to take the video down, and I need to know if you're going to take the video down. And I said, no, I can't take the video down. Because if you listen to my first video, the whole message that I was trying to share with people and impart on them is if you believe in something in your heart, you have to stand by that conviction, even if it costs you everything. And like I said last time, I have 3 little kids. I have this house. I have another house. I cannot afford to lose my job. But after putting that message out there and sharing that with America, and it was so well received, I can't then just say, even though that's what I believe, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to retract my words, and I'm going to allow my command to prevent me from sharing my heart and my truth. And I said, so with that in mind, sir, I can't take the video down. And, you know, I didn't know where this was going to go. And I immediately started thinking about what are they going to try and gig me on? You know, what did I do wrong? What policy did I violate? And I got called back a couple hours later. And by this time, it was skyrocketing. Everyone in the agency was seeing it. Cops from when I was an officer down in Los Angeles, they were contacting me. I got a call and it said, listen, the video needs to be taken down right now and you need to accept a letter of reprimand. Or we're going to take a very different approach to this if you say no again. Well, I'd already put myself on that hill and I had to be willing to die on that hill. They said they determined the video was a violation of policy and that if I wouldn't take it down, that allegations would be made against me and so on and so on. And so I told them, no, I'm not going to take it down. You do what you need to do. But the principle of it is rooted in truth, and it was a positive message that was received by millions and millions of people. If you want me to take it down, I have to respectfully refuse. And it was interesting because they kept citing different policies, you know, like, oh, it was the social media policy, or some of your equipment may have been identifiable. And that kind of seemed like a moot point to me. And it was strange because why was the message okay at 5 a.m. and then 3 hours later, there was a problem with it? And so I was later contacted by the chief of police. He's someone that I have great respect for. He's a good man to work for. And he's the one that shot me straight. And he said, Greg, if you openly defy your governor, you can't be a police officer in the state of Washington. And I told him, I said, you know what, I can respect that. And if I were in your office, I would shake your hand, respectfully disagree, and say, maybe I'm not meant to be a police officer in the state of Washington then. And here's my thoughts on that, okay? You have to do your research. You have to figure out what your true north is, what your truth is, and where you stand on issues. For me personally, I believe that the Constitution supersedes all other documents, all other laws. There's case law supporting that. If you look at Marbury versus Madison, 1803, it says any future laws created that are repugnant, meaning in conflict with the Constitution, are null and void. So when I look at how I feel comfortable enforcing the law, and I see people exercising constitutional rights, it doesn't matter if there's different executive orders, requests from mayors, requests from governors. To me, the Constitution supersedes that, and I'm going to stand with the people. Well, unfortunately, you know, higher up in all agencies, there's a political game being played. And now I am on a administrative leave status pending termination. I was told by both the agency and the union that I was asked to take it down, and I refused. So that's refusing a direct order. It's an insubordination charge, and it will result in me ultimately being let go from the agency. And I said, you know what? If that's what you guys have to do, if that video is so bad that you want to take my career from me and you want to leave my, you know, like potentially take my ability away to provide for my family because of that video, do it. Because I'm going to stand by my convictions, just like I said in my last video. So yeah, it's weird, you know, how fast your life can change in a week. It's something that I never thought would happen. I never thought that I would make a video that would resonate with millions of people. But, you know, my head is held high. I'm not intimidated or upset by how this played out. Like I said in my last video, man, I fought in the streets of Ramadi during 04 and 05. I came to terms long ago that my convictions and my beliefs may cost me everything up into my life. And even though it's 15 years later and I'm a police officer in Seattle, Washington, that truth still remains for me. So I don't have an option to back down or feel sorry for myself or give in and say, you know what, I got kids and I think I'm just going to take the letter. No, if they want to do me like this for standing up for liberty, they can do that. I'll leave you guys with this. You know, it's on to the new adventure for me. I've been doing different things my whole life, and I'm actually excited, to tell you the truth. If you know of anyone accepting resumes, hit me up, because I might need it in the near future. But, you know, I've always wanted to circumnavigate the globe on a sailboat, so maybe it's time to chase that dream. Anyways, I appreciate all the support, guys. Take care.